I just wonder if hackers have caused a glitch in the program, for example, adding alien invaders, computer viruses. Doesn't that sound like a computer and a computer game to you? It does to me. Of course, I've been in computers for 25 years. I guess when I say I've been in computers for 25 years, I guess I have been longer than that. Maybe the hackers wanted to spice up the educational program. Maybe they thought it was dull just to go into a computer program, have a wonderful life for 90 years, 100 years, maybe even 1,000, 10,000 years. Maybe they thought it was dull. Maybe they wanted to spice it up. Maybe they wanted to have wars and aliens and talking demon lizards, and they thought that would be really cool. Unless, of course, you were actually trapped inside the game and couldn't get out. Unless, of course, you were trapped inside of the game and you had a wife and children. Unless, of course, you were trapped inside of the game and you were jobless and homeless and living on the streets. At that point, it's not funny. And it's still real because you're trapped inside of it. Let's take this a step further. Let's say you go to university in the real world. But in the real world, going to school does not mean sitting inside of a classroom and reading a book. Let's say instead going to school means that you're actually living a series of different lives, full, complete lives, a new and completely full life every single day. You go to class, you plug into the holographic world, and once you're part of the program, you're actually born inside of the computer world, inside of the program. And you live a complete life. And then you die, which releases you from the program. You just lived for 90 years and you did it all in one afternoon. Now that is a hell of a way to learn. After a few experiences like that, and say a week, that's frightening, you could speak a dozen languages. You would have had experiences of a dozen lifetimes, and you'd still only be 19 years old. At this point, I wonder, we talked about in an earlier episode when the world was clean, rebooted, if you were, and there was enough oxygen in our environment and a strong enough magnetic field and no poisons in our food and our water, where our ancestors lived to be thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. What if the hackers or somebody else decided that was slowing down the learning process, that it wasn't useful to live inside of a computer program for thousands of years? What if they figured 90 years was enough and reprogrammed the program? I could imagine the glitches that would cause. But again, that would be a hell of a way to learn. Now, I say 19 years old for a very specific reason. Ask anyone who's had an out-of-body experience. Ask anybody who's seen a loved one come back from the dead. And what do they really see? They do not see the person as they were in this world, old, decrepit, bent over with age or illness. What they actually see is that person as a teenager, someone in their early 20s or late teens, college age. When a foul old man I know died, and I felt him die, it was like a huge wave was washing over the ceiling of my bedroom, and I could see breakers and stuff. It was quite dramatic. He apparently was checking up on me as he died, on his way out of town, as it were. It would have been nice if he had been that thoughtful when he was actually alive. He was maybe 90 when he died. Now, a few days later, my girlfriend and I were sitting in the living room, and there he was, standing on the patio outside the sliding glass doors. He asked me if he could come in, and I said no, because, frankly, I didn't trust him when he was alive, and I seriously doubted that being dead would make him a saint. Most people should remember that just because someone's dead, they do not become an angel. They're just as they were, which is a shame. Now, my girlfriend at the time, a major coke addict, her other boyfriend was a coke dealer. It's sort of the quality of life thing we had in Los Angeles. She was vaguely aware that someone was there. And I'm guessing it was probably the cocaine was enhancing her latent abilities, making her more sensitive to things that were going on around her. That and the fact that cocaine made her eat 20 pounds of candy a day, and she was about the size of a broomstick. But, when I saw this old man who was freshly dead, he was in his early 20s. He was very well groomed, which was very different for him, and he was wearing a freshly pressed jumpsuit like a mechanic would wear. But there he was, 20 years old, having died at 90 in this, our maybe holographic world. Now, I also believe that the hackers have damaged the program to the point where the program itself is breaking down. I have had, on sadly more than one occasion, I've seen entire skyscrapers appear and then disappear. I've seen people's personalities change completely and overnight. From a completely programming point of view, to me, and I used to be a computer programmer, I was terrible, but I could do it, and it gave me terrible headaches. I could actually envision, as the program is desperately trying to keep running, and you know, if you use computers, and we all have, the program will try desperately to run, and it'll start to do really bizarre and weird things, and if you just let it go, it'll usually get the job done. But we've all seen what happens when computer programs begin to fail. The weirdest things happen you can't imagine, but it keeps running somehow. Now, I wrote in one of my books, I just happened to have written 5 complete erotica horror novels called Coffee and Blood, Love Letters Between the Dead, which, you know, here's the plug for the day. You can buy them on Amazon, or you can buy them on our website, coffeeandblood.com, just the way it sounds, coffeeandblood.com. All that money will go towards building the village and saving some lives or rebooting the program. Anyway, I wrote these 5 complete horror erotica novels, and in them, I wrote about an experience I had after seeing what I consider to be a very important movie, Alice in Wonderland with Johnny Depp. A very significant film, but I cannot tell you why. It's important, and yet I cannot tell you why it's important. Anyway, I was in Island Bay in New Zealand, taking the bus back to the Central Business District, downtown Wellington. And I was sitting in front of the bus trying to understand what I had just seen in this movie. Now a man got onto the bus, it's not remarkable, it's a bus. He was a very gay bodybuilder with a very severe haircut, complete with a serrated cut that made his head look like a pop-top bottle. He had on his very gay bodybuilder tight shirt and the stretch pants, and he flipped out his wallet with his bus pass, and he smiled and flirted with the little old lady bus driver, and she giggled, and then he sauntered to the back of the bus. Just another day in Wellington or Hollywood. I didn't think at all about it, really, until 2 or 3 stops later, when the exact same man got onto the exact same bus. He was the very same, very gay bodybuilder, with the same very severe haircut, complete with a very serrated cut that made his head look like a pop-top bottle. He had on his gay bodybuilder tight shirt, his stretch pants, and flipped out his wallet with his bus pass, smiled and flirted with a little old lady bus driver, and then sauntered to the back of the bus. And I just sat there. Honest to God, I really did not want to know anything more about this world. I really didn't. I already know too many scary things. I can't talk to anybody because you have a conversation with me, you turn white, your knuckles turn white, and you want to vomit and pass out. I'm a fun guy. So frankly, no. Didn't want to know anything else. But even to me, this was new. And you know what? I refused to turn and look around because I did not want to see if there were 1 or 2 of these guys back there. I, honest to God, didn't want to see it. I didn't want to know. So I tried really hard to ignore the whole thing. But what I did notice was that nobody else noticed. Not even the little old lady bus driver. She just smiled and sat there and drove the bus as if nothing had happened. To me, this is a very clear indication that the program of this holographic world is breaking down. It's not a dimensional shift. It's not a time shift. It's not all these fancy, high-flying concepts that so many people have, that we're moving through dimensions. No, the program's breaking down. And it only has so many artificial people, the gay bodybuilder guy, for example. It only has so many artificial people it can use in any situation. And it just reuses the same artificial people over and over and over again in different situations. But this, to me, is a major glitch in the program. It should not have happened. Not while a real, and I flatter myself, person was there to see it twice inside of 5 minutes. So I think that the program is breaking down. But what are the programmers going to do about it? We're in here. How about this? How about every 32,000 years you program into the program the end of the world, and you allow the program to reboot? Sort of like the event that happens every 32,000 years. But what about all those living minds, those people whose minds are attached, linked, or trapped inside of the machine, trapped inside of the program? What happens to them? This might be where the Hindu and Buddhist concepts of the circle of life come in, reincarnation. Human souls living in the bodies of animals and trees and plants and flowers, stored in something living as far as the program is concerned, during the reboot, during as the Earth flips. And as we've talked about earlier, in earlier episodes, the planet is cleaned, dry cleaned, pressed, cleaned, rebooted. Maybe during the reboot of the program, the people whose minds are stored inside of the program have to be stored in something that the program thinks is alive. Again, a tree, a plant, a flower, an animal. As long as the program thinks it's living, the human mind is safe inside of it. But there still must be human survivors inside of the program so they can have babies, which then provide the human minds a human body to inhabit. It'll take a little while, for 25 people to repopulate the entire Earth, but I give you my word. I promise I will do my best and as often as I can. It also might explain the Christian credo of go forth and multiply. Even though they know that the world is going to end in 32,000 years, that the program will reboot in 32,000 years, there are still human minds, human souls, trapped in a tree waiting for a body so they can finally get out and walk around. It's just a thought I have. Whenever my eyes seem to reboot and I can actually see the individual pixels in the world around me, it's kind of like staring into the screen of an old TV set. Get close enough to the TV set, you can see the individual pixels that make up the picture. I see that sometimes. It's just a thought I have when I see a parking lot vanish and then be replaced by a Circuit City building the next day. I saw that actually on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. It's just a thought I have when I see people who are so obviously soulless. And when I speak of this, I'm not speaking in religious terms. I'm talking about from a programmer's point of view. People who are soulless, that it's very obvious that the only purpose they have inside of our world is to provoke a response from real people, to make them mad, make them happy, make them sad, push them in one direction, push them in another direction, provoke them for a response. Other than that, they don't seem to have any existence at all. And I know you've seen people like that. I've seen people like that all the time. And it's just a thought I have when I see the same very gay bodybuilder get onto the very same bus twice in 5 minutes on the same day, smiling at the very same little old lady bus driver who does not bat an eye. It really makes no difference to us, honestly, in our day-to-day lives here. But maybe it will explain enough of the truly bizarre things that we see around us. Barack Obama and Lady Gaga sort of come to mind. That at least we know we are not mad. We're just programmed that way.